Hey there, Billy Garver. Let me initially welcome you to this extremely public offering to listen to me talk about initial public offerings, IPOs. It's a walk and talk IPO edition. Billy Garver here, live in financial services. Clients, we've been hearing from you. There's some interest bubbling in these 2026 highly anticipated IPOs, some pretty big names, companies that have been public for quite a long time, something that is new in this past few decades. Companies used to not be able to stay private for as long as these ones have, in part because the private capital structure just wasn't there. And it seemed the only way you were going to be getting the big buckets of money to help run your business was to go public. That was the main reason why companies go public, is to gain access to public market capital. Some companies have been able to structure private credit, which has allowed them to stay private for much longer than typical large companies in the US. And so what this is going to be resulting in is some very high profile companies could come public this year, 2026, and automatically be one of the top 10 companies of the whole country in terms of market capitalization, which is just astounding to think about. Generally, again, everybody's situation is different. We'll talk to you individually, but we like to avoid IPOs in general for a few reasons. One, the company's never been public before, so we haven't seen all their financials, and more importantly, we haven't seen how management reacts to being a public company. When you're a public company, you're facing the demands of shareholders. You no longer get to call the shots in the C-suite without first considering, what are my shareholders going to think of that, depending on your company structure. But most of the time, that's the case. So sometimes management makes bad decisions in order in favoring short-term shareholder benefits versus long-term performance of the company. Something we have to monitor, something we monitor constantly, really, but especially prevalent for new IPOs. Second is the hype that goes around it. I know these names that are coming up in 2026 have plenty of hype already, but usually there's a whole big mechanism going around and celebrating whatever the IPO company is, whether it's known or mostly unknown. Usually somebody in the financial news network will make sure that you know the name of the IPO before it comes out, in part to generate that hype, to end up getting good price opening day, because that helps out those investment bankers that typically help these companies come public. Third thing we have to look out for, and this is something I'll be interested to see for these long private companies, what it looks like, is stock-based compensation. A lot of young companies like to use stock-based compensation. Instead of paying a full fair wage, you pay a maybe less than competitive salary, but you also pay a generous amount in stock. So you'll issue company shares to your employees, with the idea that as the company grows and does better, the share price will grow and do better. And when you are able to sell those shares, you'll be recouping more than what you lost in wages for the reduced salary. I'm generalizing. But thinking about, some of these companies that have been around for close to 20 years now, how many employees have a lot of stock that when it's private, it's a lot harder to sell, and there's a lot more strings attached to selling that private equity in that company, that once it comes public, and now there's typically a lockup period that doesn't allow you to move shares for a bit, 6 months, sometimes a year. So when those employees are able to dispose of their shares, dispose of some portion of those shares, what are they going to do? This could be their first real opportunity to make quite a bit of money on those stock-based comp shares that they previously didn't have the option to sell. So those are things that we consider when we're looking at all companies, but particularly the IPOs, because those numbers have not been public to us yet. But they are going to be public to us when these companies submit their filings, their paperwork to the SEC. We'll be able to look at how much stock-based compensation there is and maybe assess what sort of lockup period, what sort of action we can expect for those employees to get out of the stock, to dispose of some shares, to pad their pockets a bit, to make up for not getting paid as much over the past 10, 20 years. We also know when people submit a lot of sells, stock price tends to go down. No guarantees on that, but just something we like to be familiar with and understand what the effects could be. So those are some IPO things to ponder. Of course, clients, we're going to be watching the highly anticipated IPOs and maybe some of the under anticipated IPOs with you and for you. If there's anything we haven't talked about you'd like more information on, feel free to reach out or stop by 228main.com online or on Main.